Welcome to EbbiCoin. If you already heard about us and you're ready to participate in the sale, just feel free to click on the Participate in Sale button in the main menu or underneath the About Us section and register to create an account. And if you already have an account, click Already Have an Account and then log in with the username and password that you chose when you created your account. For everyone else, congratulations on finding the EbbiCoin.com website. We're happy that you're here. We have a lot of amazing and innovative technologies that we've built into EbbiCoin, which is really going to take cryptocurrency and blockchain technology into the future. For the last 10 to 20 years, every new cryptocurrency and blockchain is exactly the same. It's what they call a clone or a fork, where basically the exact same blockchain or technology is copied from one project and just cloned into another with some very small changes. For example, a lot of the blockchains out right now are literally just clones of the Ethereum blockchain with some minor changes. Maybe it processes a little bit more transactions, or maybe it processes the block a little bit faster, or they change the colors or the logos, but that's essentially it. They all use the same code, they all use the same antiquated technology that's been around for 10 or 15 years. So they're all essentially the same, which also means they all have the exact same problems. I built EbbiCoin from scratch, completely custom code and completely new blockchain that is not connected to Ethereum or any other blockchain in any way. It's completely custom and brand new code that I've done from the ground up. And what's really amazing about that is that allows me to integrate and implement really innovative features that, number one, nobody's ever thought of before, and number two, that they can't code, especially if they're trying to copy old technology and then try to modify it little by little. It could never happen. It would have to be completely revamped from the ground up, just like what I've done here with EbbiCoin. One thing that's interesting about EbbiCoin is that it has a dual layer data architecture. This data architecture is completely custom as well. I actually invented it. And I won't get too deep into how it works because it's very technical. I actually have a longer, almost 1 hour video that goes into everything that EbbiCoin does extremely intricately. And that also describes this new data architecture that I invented. But basically what it means for you guys is that there's an application layer and a data architecture layer combined into one instead of a very simple rudimentary ledger like what you get with every other cryptocurrency. For example, Bitcoin, which tons of people are going crazy over right now and buying for $100,000 plus per coin. Bitcoin is a very simple rudimentary ledger. What that means is it's just like a database or an Excel spreadsheet where it just keeps track of people and how many of something they have. So usually in Bitcoin's case, because it has zero technology, it's just keeping track of Bitcoin numbers. So it would say person number 1 has 1 Bitcoin and person number 2 has 2 Bitcoins. And then the next block would happen, and if those two people made a trade, it would just update that to say person 1 actually has 3 now and person 2 has 0. That's it. That's how rudimentary those blockchains are. They call it just a ledger. It's very simple, no technology at all. But what EbbiCoin has is an application layer where you can run apps, games, services, products, which is what I'm building now, and the data architecture layer combined to the back end of it. But with my new invention, I can actually have what's called instant finality. And what that means is that the data can be seen instantly, and that means that we can update our transactions per second substantially on the EbbiCoin blockchain. Bitcoin right now can only process 7 transactions per second. Ethereum can only process 15 transactions per second. XRP has 1,500 transactions per second, but it's not actually decentralized like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and EbbiCoin. XRP is just ran inside servers at that company, and it's not decentralized at all. There's also no rewards with blocks for mining or participating in the blockchain. They just mined all of the tokens up front, and now they're just holding them all. So I would stay away from XRP, but they say they have 1,500 transactions per second, but I honestly think it should be more since it's just completely centralized in their own servers. EbbiCoin has 10,000 transactions per second right now as we have it configured. And that's obviously much more than Bitcoin 7, Ethereum's 15, XRP's 1,500, EbbiCoin's at 10,000. And like I said, we are actually decentralized. So we're not just holding all the data in the servers in our warehouse and pretending that it's a decentralized structure. The next thing that's really amazing and different about EbbiCoin is that we have a hybrid consensus structure. Other blockchains like Bitcoin or Ethereum, some of them have proof of work for their consensus layer, which means that users can mine transactions using the power of their CPUs or GPUs in order to secure transactions on the blockchain and process them. Some blockchains use what's called proof of stake, where users have to stake or hold their coins or tokens in a wallet and keep them there so that they can process the transactions that way. But what I've done is I've actually created a hybrid where we use proof of stake and then proof of work, which actually makes EbbiCoin twice as secure, and more importantly, it lets double the people participate. So for example, when a transaction is ready to be submitted to the blockchain, it first goes to our proof of work miners, and our nodes can process that transaction and then send it down to the staking layer, where anyone who has 10,000 or more EbbiCoin in their wallet can participate in that. So if you don't have the ability to purchase 10,000 EbbiCoin to participate in the staking, you can start off mining. And then once you build up enough EbbiCoin, then you can start participating in staking as well. So you can decide if you'd like to mine and stake and earn double the rewards, or just one or the other. The other really innovative thing that we've done with our mining is we've completely reduced the amount of electricity and energy that it takes to actually mine and solve the blocks to confirm onto our blockchain. And this is really important because other blockchains like Bitcoin right now, it takes an extreme amount of electricity and $10,000 to $20,000 computers that are specialized just for mining Bitcoin. So they literally can't be repurposed or used for anything else. And those things are drawing so much power, and then you have to have a big cooling system to cool them down, which takes even more power. So right now, people trying to mine blocks to confirm transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain are using a ridiculous amount of electricity just to change a very simple rudimentary ledger. As I mentioned, the blockchain for Bitcoin, it doesn't have applications. It doesn't have data architecture. It doesn't have quantum security and all the things that EbbiCoin has. It is literally just a simple ledger, like an Excel spreadsheet. It should not be taking an extreme amount of electricity from $20,000 high-powered miners in a warehouse with supercooling just to change some guy's balance from 0 to 1, and that's it. So this makes absolutely no sense. It's no longer sustainable. And I think a lot of people are finally coming around now that this cannot continue like this. We cannot spare the electricity that's being used for that. And it's really just such a big waste. And it makes no sense for a rudimentary blockchain like Bitcoin. So what we've done is we've made it that our mining software can run on any device. And I mean any device. I built it for IoT devices or Internet of Things. So it can be your smart thermostat, it can be your Ring camera at your front door, your cell phone, can be your old laptop, can be any computer, can be a Raspberry Pi. I've built it this way so that everybody can participate in our mining system as nodes. So it's very easy for anybody to just download our app and then either install it on your phone or sideload it onto any device. And you can immediately start to participate and earn rewards as a node, as a miner. Like I said, I want everyone to be able to participate in this and not lock it down just for the elites that can buy $20,000 computers and spend thousands and thousands of dollars per month in electricity and build warehouses in China, and all of the mining gets centralized into these big companies who can spend millions and hundreds of millions of dollars for miners. That's not the way this decentralization was supposed to be. So I've completely flipped that on its head. And I've actually built it so that any of those miners, those are called ASIC miners, any of those that come in and try to overwhelm our mining power by those $20,000 computers, I've actually coded our blockchain to punish those people so that they'll get worse results with their $20,000 specialized computer than you would with your modern cell phone. And the power that it draws is negligible. You running our cell phone app on your phone, you won't know the difference from when you run something like our mining app or something like a Facebook or a YouTube app on your phone. And the next thing that you can earn rewards from is our mesh network. I've built something really cool into EbbiCoin. They're called P2P transactions or person-to-person transactions. And this means that you and somebody else can trade EbbiCoin live in person just by tapping your phones together. We use low energy Bluetooth, and that's how they connect. But I've actually built it to use Wi-Fi and some other methods that some phones have as well. But low energy Bluetooth is the biggest one that people are going to be using. So you can just tap your phones together and you can trade EbbiCoin back and forth. And the way that I've built this is that it's 100% completely secure so that nobody can hack it or double spend or edit the transactions along the way. So it's 100% secure. And once that transaction happens, and post those transactions to the blockchain using the internet. But the other thing that I've built is that there's an offline wallet. So anytime you do have internet, you can transfer any number of your coins to the offline wallet. And what that means is if you don't have internet, you can still do these P2P or person-to-person transactions with no internet. So if both people had EbbiCoin in their offline wallet and neither one of them had internet, maybe they're on a plane or in a rural area with no internet, they could still tap their phones together, and the transactions, I've coded them to happen locally. So it's actually secured, encrypted, and happening locally on those two people's phones. So it doesn't need the internet to do that. It doesn't need the actual blockchain because it's already got the data saved in there and it already has the coins in the offline wallet, which is coded exactly for this. So those two people would tap their phones the exact same way they do if they had internet, and the transaction happens locally. The apps on their phones can see how much balance the other person has. It encapsulates it and encrypts it. It quantum secures it, which I'll talk about in a minute. But then everything is encrypted, secured, and recorded on both phones. And then anytime one of those two people does connect back to the internet, it will post all of those offline transactions online to the blockchain for both people. So that way there can be any number of transactions that happen offline and they don't affect the online main blockchain because they're using the offline wallets. I won't get too deep into the code or technology of how it works. It's very extensive. Again, I have a long, almost hour-long video that you can see once you get inside. But just understand that you can do offline transactions P2P or person-to-person just by tapping your phones together. The next thing that happens is that we have a mesh network. So every node can participate as a piece of the mesh network. And this is also, like I said, for IoT devices, which can be a smart camera, smart thermostat, basically anything with a processor and some RAM. And so every time there's an offline transaction happening, those two phones that tap together will look around them 300 yards, because that's the maximum distance for BLE or low energy Bluetooth, which is what we're using. And if it finds another person within those 300 yards that's also a node that does have internet, it will encapsulate and quantum encrypt all that data, send it to that other node. That node will have all the transactions pooled and posted to the blockchain using its internet, and then it'll send a message back to the two offline phones telling them that the transaction has been posted to the live blockchain through our mesh network. And the person who posted that transaction to the mesh network will actually earn a reward for doing that and being a part of the mesh network. So they'll get a notification saying you've earned EbbiCoin for posting a transaction through the mesh network. And we actually built a custom algorithm to allow this to figure out the best way to get to the internet. So when it's looking to try and post an offline transaction to the internet through our mesh network, it smart routes through different nodes to find the fastest and most efficient way to get to the internet. So it knows where to go. It is actually thinking about what's the best way to use these nodes to get to the internet. And I built it right now to go up to 5 hops. So imagine that there's somebody 300 yards away who's running a node, either their cell phone app is turned on or any other IoT device we mentioned, but they don't actually have internet. And another 300 yards away, there's another one, 300 yards away, there's a third one, and a fourth one, and a fifth one. When the fifth person has internet, my system will route through all 5 of those people to get to the end person who does have internet. It'll post the transactions, as we mentioned, to the blockchain using the internet on the 5th person's node. And then it'll bounce it back through all 5 people, back to the original 2 that don't have internet, and again, tell them your transaction has been posted live to the blockchain through our mesh network. And all 5 of those people who participated in that transaction will actually get rewards through the mesh network as well. So even the people who didn't have internet but they were used as a relay to go another 300 yards to continue this 5-hop sequence to post a transaction at the end through the internet. All 5 of those will earn a portion of the mesh network rewards. So those are the 3 ways that you can earn rewards: mining, staking, and through that mesh network. And what this mesh network makes really cool for us is that we don't have to have the internet. If there's ever an issue where the internet goes down, or as I mentioned before, if you're on a plane or if you're in another country for the first time and you don't have a SIM card, if you go to somewhere rural that just doesn't have a signal, or something catastrophic happens and the internet is down for a while or gone forever, everybody can still continue to make transactions with each other, and the blockchain will actually be run offline. Like I said, through low energy Bluetooth, but we can also use it with things like satellites, radio antennas, and any other number of delivery devices that we have right now. So communication could be much farther than 300 yards. That's just for the Bluetooth that's built into every cell phone these days. But if we started using satellites and radio waves, we could transfer this data even farther. The next thing that's really important is our quantum encryption. We actually have a quantum encryption layer that connects to everything in our ecosystem. And this means that quantum computers cannot hack our blockchain, it can't break our wallets, it can't hack the mnemonic phrases, it can't hack the connections between nodes, it can't hack our offline P2P transactions. We have all of it 100% completely secured from quantum computer attacks and supercomputer clusters from governments, large corporations, or anybody, which no other blockchain that exists today has. Recently, Elon Musk just made a post on Twitter where he's asking his AI, how long do you think it's going to take before quantum computers and AI can hack the security that normal blockchain have, which they call SHA-256, SHA-256. And honestly, I think it's going to be in 5 years or less. With the way things are growing and the investments that's happening in Microsoft to go through quantum computers, I think it's 5 years or less. And what this would allow someone to do is hack wallets, change balances. Something that they can do is a historical attack, where because each block on a blockchain compares the previous one, somebody could use quantum computers to go back in time and break an old block and update a balance to 10 million, and then come to the newest block today and see they have 10 million coins. So that's a big problem. The historical attack is very possible within the next 5 years or less. Also, breaking wallet passcodes, just hacking directly into the blockchain where data transfers from the first block to the second block. The encryption that happens between those could be broken, so they could just write any data that they want every single time. So those are really big key issues that nobody's really talking about right now. And the quantum encryption we actually built directly into the blockchain. So instead of using SHA-256 for when one blockchain goes to the second blockchain, we use something called Blake 3. Now, for all of these quantum security terms and how they work, I'm not going to get too deep into these either. I have another long video that you can watch that goes further into these. If you're a security expert, you'll understand how amazing this is. And even if you're not, you can still kind of understand the lengths that we've gone to build this from the ground up using quantum encryption throughout every piece of what we have. So for the actual block security, we have Blake 3 instead of SHA-256. For the transaction security, we use Dilithium 5 for all of our transactions. We use Kyber signatures for quantum secure connections to our mesh network and person-to-person transactions. We use something called Sphinx plus checkpoints. So this does actually protect against the quantum historical edits, where someone can go back in time and change a block, which would change the data on a block today. This is extremely important. So anytime we actually put a block on the blockchain, we use Sphinx Plus to create a checkpoint and lock it down so it can never be changed even by quantum computers. And we also have memory security. It's enterprise-grade security memory management. So no normal hacker or user could try and edit the memory to see what it is and try and change things. But if you are a nation state or you are a government, you might be able to try. But we built in this memory security as well. It's enterprise-grade security. So even the memory inside the apps can't be seen or try to edit or anything. So we actually have full stack protection against all quantum threats and supercomputer clusters from the ground up. It's completely built into the fabric of everything we have, as opposed to any other blockchain which has 0 of these things. So we have an extreme amount of security and quantum proof encryption, and every other blockchain has literally nothing. All they have is that from block 1 to block 2, it uses SHA-256 to secure the data, which is not even that secure these days. Now, I want to give you guys a bombastic and exciting way to describe the security that we have. So I went over to ChatGPT and I asked it, how long do you think it would take for a quantum computer to break just our dilithium 5 security only? So not the other 5 quantum security stack that we have, just our dilithium 5, which we use for transaction security. And it said not in any meaningful amount of time. And I said, no, get really bombastic. Tell me exactly, because I want people who are not familiar with these security systems to really know how this works, how amazing my code is. And so this is a quote from ChatGPT. It says, even if you had a quantum computer the size of a football field with millions of qubits running at full speed, it would still take longer than the lifespan of the universe, which is trillions of years, to break a single one of your dilithium 5 signatures. So your assets stay secure no matter what the future holds. So that's the kind of code that I'm making. It is government level security. It is nation state level security. This is the best security and the highest technology that you can have. And that's what I'm building into EbbiCoin. It is the newest and best technologies. It is innovative ways to do things, which I've created from the ground up. It is quantum security and encryption built into every single layer of what we have, which no other blockchain has done, but nobody else can do. They don't think of these things. They're not security experts, and they're not on the cutting edge of new technologies like I am. And because I'm a one-man show, I can make these decisions instantly and make this the best and most custom code that's ever existed. And that's what I've done. The next thing I want to talk about is something that I invented, which I call an adaptive block manager. With other blockchains, what happens is there's a certain number of blocks that happen every couple of seconds, all the way up to 5 minutes. And there's a certain amount of transactions that can happen inside each block. So for example, if there's 10,000 transactions waiting to go on the blockchain and there's only 1,000 that are allowed in each block, it would take 10 blocks to fill those up and process all those transactions. But with other blockchains, there's only a very specific number of blocks that happen, and it's hard coded, so they can never be changed. So Ethereum is 12 seconds. Some blockchains are 1 minute, some blockchains are 5 minutes, but let's say it's 1 minute and you can only do 1,000 transactions. To do 10,000 transactions at a time, you'd have to wait 10 minutes because one block would fill up and everybody else would have to wait. You'd have to wait the full 1 minute until the next block comes, and then that block could fill up 1,000 transactions, and then you have to wait another minute. So this is really inefficient, and it causes huge issues with other blockchains because they're just not scalable. If you all of a sudden want to start implementing this into banks or into brick and mortar stores, if you want to try and take over and replace Visa and MasterCard payments, or any large growth that happens with users, those blockchains just cannot handle it. They're just not coded to, and you can't change that code. It's set in stone. Unlike EbbiCoin, I'll continue to update with the newest technologies, so we'll continue to evolve as time goes on. And this made it so that some blockchains had users waiting 10, 20 minutes, or even up to hours for a transaction to go through, and there's gas prices, which are the transaction fees on those blockchains, just went through the roof. So everything bad you could think of. So with EbbiCoin, I built an adaptive block manager. So what that does is it knows how many transactions are waiting, and it creates the right number of blocks instantly. So if there's 10,000 transactions waiting and only 1,000 transactions can go in a block, my system looks at that, sees it, automatically creates 10 blocks at the same time, fills those 10 blocks with 1,000 transactions each, which means it processes all the waiting transactions at the same time, and then it starts sending all of those 10 blocks to the consensus layer so the miners can mine it, then sends it down to the staking layer so the stakers can confirm it, and then we put it onto the blockchain. I mentioned earlier we have instant finality, so we don't have to wait for confirmations either, like other blockchains where you have to wait for 5 confirmations, 10 confirmations, etc. What we have is instant. So we have instant confirmation, so you don't actually have to wait for that. So our transactions process extremely fast, in 1 second or less usually, and we can process right now 10,000 transactions per second, which I showed you the comparison already. That's outstanding. But with my adaptive block manager, there's no limit because any large number of transactions that are waiting, it automatically makes the number of blocks that it needs and it starts to process all those blocks at the same time. Another thing we have is that it happens in parallel. So it can process thousands of blocks at the same time in parallel. Instead of other blockchains, it has to go one by one. It has to go the first block, then the next block. With us, if we have 1,000 blocks waiting, it can process 1,000 blocks at the same time. That's how we can get our transactions per second so high. Also, right now, the 10,000 transactions per second is the lowest it will ever be for EbbiCoin. Because as more nodes come online and as our mesh network grows, each additional node that gets turned on from someone just downloading a cell phone app or installing this on a Raspberry Pi, our number of transactions goes up. So right now, the 10,000 is the lowest it will ever be. And unlike every other blockchain, ours will just keep getting better. Our transactions per second will continue to grow as we have more and more users. No other blockchain can do that. What they have is what they have, and it can never change, it can never be updated. The next thing that I've built is bridges. So we're going to be allowing any other cryptocurrency from any other blockchain to use our bridges to put their cryptocurrencies and tokens onto our quantum secure blockchain. As I mentioned, those other blockchains are not secure, and I think soon, 5 years or less, will be able to be hacked. So what will allow someone, for example, holding Bitcoin to do is bridge their Bitcoin to the EbbiCoin blockchain in our data layer that's quantum secure so that their Bitcoin can't be hacked. And then anytime they need to use a Bitcoin, they can just pull the Bitcoin off our quantum secure data layer back onto Bitcoin, and then they can send those Bitcoin or spend them however they want. But that way, the EbbiCoin blockchain and our data layer can be a safe haven where someone can hold all their coins or tokens from any blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Arbitrum, anything. They can use our quantum security layer just to make sure that all of their assets are actually safe. And I think this is going to be big for large holders of Bitcoin, for ETFs, investment companies, to actually put all their assets somewhere that they know is quantum secured, like I said, and they can just withdraw out of these bridges when they need to actually use the liquid Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it is that they're holding. But this is great for personal users too, even if you only got a couple Ethereum or a couple Bitcoin, and for some reason you don't want to transfer it into EbbiCoin, just put it on our bridge, at least transfer it over to our quantum secure blockchain and our data layer, so at least then you know it's safe and can't be hacked, and then you can use it however you want after that. The last thing I want to talk about is the application layer. I mentioned that we have a data architecture and application layer bolted together so that they can both be used, and each node runs the whole thing. And this allows users to build games, apps, any sort of smart contracts, all on the EbbiCoin blockchain moving forward. And so what I'm actually doing is building enterprise level products and services and putting them directly onto the EbbiCoin blockchain. And we already have a lot of cool features inside our EbbiCoin.com dashboard. After you make your username and password and log in, you'll actually see we're already making a chat app that you can use right now. We have one-click wallet creation for Ethereum and Bitcoin, and we're going to be adding other blockchains as well. We're also adding where you can send Ethereum or Bitcoin directly through chats, and we're adding a lot of other cool games and services right now that I'm actually building myself, and all of those will be on the EbbiCoin blockchain. So you can spend your EbbiCoin on all of these things, and you can also earn EbbiCoin from using some of these things as well. So EbbiCoin as a project is all around amazing with all of the products and services we're creating, all of the utilities that actually integrate with Ethereum and Bitcoin, also our quantum secure blockchain with our mesh network, person-to-person transactions, offline transactions, bridges from other blockchains. Everything that we've built is just really amazing and innovative, whereas other blockchains, as I mentioned, have nothing. They're a literal basic ledger that you could do in Excel. And I'm sure if we went around and asked a bunch of people, if you could go back in time, what would you go back in time and do? I'm sure a large portion of them right now would say that go back in time to when Bitcoin started to buy Bitcoin, because people who bought Bitcoin in the beginning have become very wealthy from that. And Bitcoin has no new innovative technology. It's not secure. It has no data layers, just a basic ledger. So as opposed to what I've made here with EbbiCoin and all the amazing stuff that we're continuing to update and build, how much more would you want to participate in EbbiCoin at the beginning as opposed to Bitcoin, which has basically nothing. So now's the time, create an account, get into our sale, and get as much EbbiCoin as you can before they're all gone. We don't have a large supply like other blockchains and other tokens as well. The maximum supply is going to be 78 million from the Genesis block, and 48 million of those are going to be sold in this pre-sale. And once these are gone, the only way you're going to be able to get EbbiCoin is from buying them from other people at whatever price they see fit, or from earning them from running a node, from staking, or from being a part of our mesh network. So the value of EbbiCoin is going to go up substantially as the supply diminishes and people actually want to use and spend EbbiCoin to be a part of our products and services, as well as transfer all of their assets onto our safe quantum security layer. And just to put that into perspective, other blockchains and other tokens have hundreds of millions, billions, and sometimes even trillions of coins and tokens, which makes it very hard for the value to go up substantially for its holders. Whereas with us, we wanted to do the opposite, where we have a small supply and people who actually participate in the network are the ones who get rewarded, which is basically everybody who gets started with us today. So make your account at EbbiCoin.com and get your EbbiCoin now.